All right, I don't know if I gave you enough time or not for a break, but I want to show you a couple things that are in here. You may have, some of these you may have figured out already yourselves, okay? Now, this says employee number, but I didn't make this wide enough. So I could bring it down and it'll show it, or I can decide I want this to get a little closer and maybe do it a little more here, and there it is. All right. Now, if I do that, I'm going to do a Control Z a couple times and get it back. So the reason is if I do that, I may want to highlight all of these and all of these and this one, because if I'm going to make a change and I want them to basically be kind of still symmetrical in size, I can now change all of them at once. Now, it may look a little funky for a minute. But that's not bad. All right. Again, I got to move some stuff over, but you see what I'm talking about. Okay. If I decide that this is too wide, I can now make them all so they're pretty much the same size as those are. Now I'm going to come over to here. I'm going to grab these and move them over so I can grab these and move them over. All right. I'm going to make them, I'll give them a little bit of space there. That looks good. All right. This is a little close here, so I'm going to move this. Didn't really want to move that, but it looks okay. If I do want all of these to be right justified, and sometimes people like that, I can highlight all of them. So again, I'm holding down on the Control key now when I'm clicking each one of those. And under the text align, I can choose center right. And now they're all right justified. You may like the way that looks better. You may like it better center. Again, you're not going to have programs where they're going to say that and you're going to get graded on how you do that. And that would be, to me, that's a waste of my time and your time. The other thing I like to do, you don't have to, I made my buttons bigger, but the text isn't any bigger. So again, I'm going to make my button text bold also in 16. I think that looks a little better. Again, you may agree, you may not agree. Now, that's not a perfect interface, but it's not too bad. And I didn't spend a lot of time on it. Now, I did go in and manually, I think, change the names of everything. This is one time, if you look up on the screen, please, I like to click the down arrow here because it shows me all my controls. So notice I've still got text box 5 and text box 7. So I didn't change those. But at a real quick glance, I can see what I've changed and what I haven't changed. So there's 5, and it's right there. And yeah, sure enough, it says text box 5. All right, so I've got to find where that is in here and change this to text box union status. Probably 7 is this one. Nope. There it is. So that should be text box gross pay. All right. Now, what's going to happen is sooner or later, you're going to build an interface like this, and you're going to like the way it looks. And then you're accidentally going to move something. And if you've done a bunch of other stuff, Control Z may or may not even work. So what you can do is you can basically lasso this entire thing. So I'm going to draw this invisible lasso around everything in the program. Everything's highlighted. I think you'd agree with that. I'm going to right mouse click, and I'm going to choose lock controls. Now they can't move. That's just a kind of a nicety, in my opinion. You can unlock one at a time, or you can unlock them all again and move them. That's totally fine. But to me, now, at least, let's put it this way, in my opinion, for whatever my opinion's worth, it looks acceptable. I'm not going to say this is a beautiful interface. You might think, yeah, I wouldn't put orange with turquoise. I don't care. But you could change anything you wanted to change now. All right? But I will expect that when you turn in assignments, that not that you have to do it the way I just showed you, but you will look and you will name all your controls. All right? Now, you create your controls, you put them on screen, and you name them. When you double click on a control, it brings up the code window for the control. You don't want to do that before you've renamed it, because I'm going to show you what happens then. All right. So right now I'm in design mode. So how do I go to code mode? There's many ways. I can right mouse click on here. Come on. I can right mouse click and choose view code, or I can hit F2. But notice I've got text box and a label because I accidentally hit those. But you know what? It's a good thing because it lets me show you. If you do that, how you get rid of that? Don't just, well, just highlight them, hit delete, boom, they're gone. No. It won't work the way you think it'll work. All right, and I probably didn't start up my recording, or did I? Yeah, I did. Good. So the way that you do that is you go back into design mode, believe it or not. So I'm going to hit F, well, I thought if I hit F2 again, but let's see, View Designer. There we go. So for instance, I know one of them was called Label 4, and I don't remember what the heck Label 4 was for. But if you look over here, you've got a bunch of stuff here. What you have to do is figure out which one it was. So let's see if I can do that. So one more time. It was Label 4 and text box 1. Well, text box 1 should be easy to figure out what it is. Probably the first one I put in there. That would be my guess at least. All right. So I'm going to go back into here again. And I'm going to go to that first text box, which used to be text box 1. All right. Then I'm going to go over here by where these things are on the top, and I'm going to click on the one that looks like a lightning bolt. And that shows me where I've got code. And if you notice, text box 1, text change. Can you see that? So you highlight it. Oops, not like that, because I just brought it up and I didn't want to do that. But you highlight it, and you literally just keep hitting delete until it's all gone. Now, if there's a better way of doing it, and there might be, I don't know what it is. So notice I'm doing here, I'm just literally removing everything that's in there. It's all gone now. And when I go back to view code, that one's gone. So I've got to figure out what my label 4 was and do the same thing. All right. I'm not sure, but I'm going to guess my label 4 is that I think it's 1, 2, 3. I think it's this one, but I don't know. And it looks like, nope, that ain't it. So I'm going to have to go around and look a little bit to see if I can find it. Do you understand what I'm saying, though? Does everybody get that? You don't want to just magically go in and remove those, because one of those intermediate files, those system files, that designer file, that doesn't change when you do that. And things will get screwed up, I can guarantee it. And then you go, oh, well, it's okay because I went into the designer file and I changed it. It's a system file. Don't change that. Years ago, and again, you guys may have heard this story, it's very short, but I gave students, we built, basically it was like a bill for an auto repair place, okay? And it was called Joe's Auto Repair. And I was stupidly forgot to tell the students when they name things, don't put an apostrophe in there. And they did. And it worked fine until one day it didn't. And there was nothing you could do about it. You could grab, for a while, you couldn't even grab the code. Nothing worked. So what did you do? They're like, well, what do we do? I said, oh, you start all over again. Then they were PO'd at the instructor. And I don't blame them. All right. So now what I want to do is I want to put in my code for these things. And I'm going to do the easiest one first, which is exit. And I'm going to give you the code right now, but I'm going to ask you to type it in. I'm going to type it in. When I click clear, again, as I told you before, I want a bunch of stuff to happen. Clear, 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 plus I want my cursor to go right there. That's called setting the focus. All right. So I'm going to show you, like I said, a few more things today, and it's 10:41. If it takes another hour, that's totally fine. All right. One of the first things I want to show you is if I start running this program right now, if you just take a look at it, I'm going to run the program. I'm not going to, it doesn't work. It doesn't do anything right now. Oh, it's still going to bring that up because I didn't set my, so I got to go to Payroll03 and I've got to set a startup project. Okay, now it'll come up. All right. Now you might not like this because look where it comes up on the screen. That's not really too bad, but you can set that too. And I'm going to show you that. There's a bunch of stuff in here I'm going to show you. But you'll notice that right now it looks like, well, my cursor is where I want it to be. That's good. I'm going to just hit tab. I don't want it to go like that. I don't want it to go here, then here, then here, here, then here, then here. I want it to go here, 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 etc. That makes sense? I want it to do that. Okay? So how do you do that? Well, the easiest way, I'm going to stop my run right now. The only way I can stop now is to click this X. is you just click in a blank spot on the form and go up to where it says View and go down to almost the very bottom of the page where it says Tab Order. All right? And don't play with this stuff yet, okay? Labels cannot get the tab order. You can't tab to labels while the program's running. It ain't my rule, it's a Microsoft rule. So I'm gonna click like this, and you'll see 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and I don't care about the other ones. You can still do those. You know, that's totally fine. But I'm coming over here, and notice when I click on this one, change to a 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This one, technically, I can't do much with it anyway, but that's fine. 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, to turn it off again, because it stays on like this, you do another View, Tab Order. That's it. Now I'm going to run the program again, and you'll notice there's my there I'm in 0. But now when I tab, see that? It's the order that I want it to be in. Now I'm going to expect, why? Because that you want to make it as, you know, look at it this way. And some people get offended when I talk like this, but imagine that the person who runs your program is an idiot. And you want to make it as easy for them as possible and as hard for them to screw up as possible. So we're going to do a couple more things quickly. I'm going to stop the run. And what I want is I want to just be able to hit the Enter key, and I want that Calculate button to fire. And I want to be able to hit the Escape key, and I want the Clear button to fire. That's what I want. You may not agree with that. You don't have to do this. But don't click on the buttons. Click on a blank space in the form, some blank area. All right. And again, I got to look for it because it looks like, again, they've moved it. Let's see. Help button, Form button. Wow, this is really, I don't like what they've done here, but they didn't ask me. There used to be a thing right up at the top that would say Accept button, and another one that said Cancel button. I'll have to check on those and get back to you. But under what?
Miss, M-I-S-C.
Under Miss.
It's sort of near the bottom.
Sort of near the bottom. Mouse, layout, I don't have a Miss on here. Well, let's see, do we have one if we click on the button now? Nope. We'll find it. I'm not worried about it. It's here someplace. All right. But there's an Accept button, and that will fire when you hit the Enter key. There's a Cancel button that will fire when you hit the Escape key. Let's put the code in so we can actually do something with this, okay? So now we make sure you've renamed your button. So mine's button Exit, button Clear, and button Calculate, okay? So I'm going to first double click on the Exit button. I still have that label. I'll have to clear that out myself later, all right? But I will do that later. And hopefully this is big enough. My font size is big enough that you can all see this okay. In a later class, we'll talk about what sender and event args and all that stuff is, okay? We want a box to come up that's called a message box, and we want it to say, do you want to exit? And we want it to say, have a title on it that says exit now, and there'll be a yes button on it and a no button on it. All right, plus we'll put our own little icon there with a question mark on it because we're asking them a question. Okay, so let's put that in. And this is what you type in. Oops, of course you have to type correctly. Dialog result, dialog equal. I'm going to put this over several lines so we can discuss each line at a time. Do you really want to exit? Exit now. And yes, some is in uppercase, some is in lowercase. You'll see why in just a minute. Now I have to show you an if statement. We haven't gotten there yet, but you'll be able, I believe, to understand it in just a minute. Now, don't worry, I'm coming back, but I'm going to run it. Why? Because I want to show you what it looks like. It makes more sense. When you click exit, notice what's going to happen. There's the message box. The title is exit now, question mark, question mark, question mark. The text is, do you really want to exit? The icon is a question mark, and our two buttons we have are yes and no. If I click no, I stay in the program. If I click yes, the program closes. Does that make sense to everyone? All right, so type, and then I'll give you a couple minutes, and then I'll explain what's going on in each one of those lines. You're probably already understanding most of it anyway. You will be putting a routine like that in virtually all of your GUI programs, just so you know. Maybe that's a little overkill here. There, it's probably a little better. There. It's kind of convention that you put the title in caps, that exit now. You don't have to do that. You know, you can mix the case, you can even make it lowercase, but it does stand out and it goes at the top. All right. Sometimes when you set these up with a message box, because we're going to work quite a bit with message boxes a little bit later, you can set it up with a yes, no. You can set it up with an okay cancel. There's a lot of ways you can set these up, and you're going to learn all those as we go on in here. The application.exit, hopefully that makes you, you understand that you're dead in the water then. The program stops running. You could literally put all this on one line if you wanted to. It would go out to gosh knows where, but you could do that if you really wanted to. I just put it on separate lines so you can see what's going on with each one of those. Next, we'll do the clear button, and then we will do the, there's not really much to do in the calculate button here because we're not putting any validation or anything in. Okay. Now you may have already figured out some of this stuff, but dialog result is a built-in type. All right, literally it's a built-in type of variable that exists in the language. So we are creating a dialog result. We're just calling it dialog. We could have called it dialog result as long as the caseness wasn't the same as what you see there. But dialog seems sufficient. Message box is a built-in C# routine. And it's designed to show you output. One strange thing, in my opinion, and we'll look at this later on in the semester, is they have this for output, and it works just fine. They don't have a similar one for input. They don't have the equivalent, you guys who were in the class last semester, they don't have the equivalent of a prompt dialog in here. But I'm going to show you how you can go over to Visual Basic and grab theirs, and then use it in your program. We'll go through that later on in the semester. Right, if I forget it, hopefully one of you will remember to remind me. So this says to show the message box. This is the text for the message box. This is the title for the message box, the buttons for the message box, and the icon for the message box. Now, the only thing that's mandatory in there is the text. You don't have to put in a title. You don't have to put in buttons. You don't have to put in an icon. And as you probably guessed, there's an I for information. There's the red X for error. All right. There's I think it's like a yellow yield sign or something for warning. So there's a bunch of them. Okay. And which one do you put? Well, you should really put one. I mean, here I am asking a question. It's not an error to put that in there. I think in the first, because I grabbed this from an old thing of code and I had it in there as what a warning, but I don't think it has to be a warning. But you could if you wanted to. All right. Anybody have any questions about any of that stuff that's in there? Anything that doesn't make sense? Then let's jump back and let's take a look on here. So the next thing I want to do, clear, 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 clear. Put the cursor there. So that's going to be 7 statements where I clear and 1 statement where I set the focus. All right. So I'm going to double click on the clear button to bring that up. And I know I've got a text box for the first name. And I just say .text. Now you can do this 2 ways. Please look on the screen. You can either say .text. You won't want to do it this way probably. But you can say equals string dot empty. You can do that and it works just fine. I like typing 2 characters. You already know what those 2 are. Those 2. They both do the same thing. Okay, so I'm going to set that one. Then that one. And what was next? It was employee number. And then it was union. And then we had, oops. Hours worked, and that should be text, not test. That's why I'm getting an error there. That's everything. I'll leave that up there so you get a chance to copy that. If you haven't done file save all or click the double disk icon in a while, probably not a bad idea to do that. It's funny because I'm going to tell you this, you might laugh, and I don't know if I've ever told you guys this. I thought it was kind of funny. But the school I used to work at, they had an electrical power distribution program. They had real tall telephone poles at the bottom of the campus, and they taught people how to climb up there and fix boxes and stuff. And they also taught them how to dig underneath. And almost every semester they would dig and they would hit some of our lines, and all of a sudden everything would go. So if you hadn't saved in a while, your machine just boom, it just stopped working. So that's why we don't have that here. But I mean, especially in spring and in fall, the way the weather is, all right, that we can get a flash storm real fast. So I'm going to just quickly save this, and I'll come right back to it. But I'm going to go over here and I'm going to run this. I'm just going to put some garbage in there. It doesn't matter what it is. Now, when I click this, all 7 of those fields should clear, and my cursor should be back here. And it is. So it does appear at least, and I've got my exit, so it appears everything's working. All right. I forgot to do something with the text box for the gross pay. We'll do that next. Again, as we're going through this, I know I keep saying it. I'm gonna keep sounding like a broken record most, if not all, the semester. If something on yours isn't working or doesn't make sense, please, by all means, let me know. I will at least try to work with you on it. Does it make sense what's happening in each one of those? The thing that's nice, one of the reasons I wanted to go through the console one first is we're clearing it the same way that we initialized stuff before. We're making sure that it's set to nothing. Okay. You lost everything. And if that's the case, I can always email you. It's not. Okay, so you still got your code. Yeah, let me see exactly what happened. Did you get an E combination or anything that you remember? The stuff was on there before? Was the stuff on there before? I'm not sure of that. Tell you what, keep watching. I'll email it. Yeah, I'll email it to you as soon as we're done. Okay, go ahead. Stop. Sure. So there are no questions, correct? So we're going to put in the code for the calculate, and it's going to be a little different than what we did before. Now, I already mentioned this to you, but we want to multiply this one by this one and put it here. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. Now, the program is still going to blow up if we try to do the calculation and one of these is non-numeric or blank. Okay. So later we'll learn how to fix that. So that's not a big thing. But the point is, if you remember what I told you, and it's the same way, what goes in here, look on the screen, what goes in here, those are strings. You now know how to convert those things. All right. So we're going to put in our calculate in just a second. But before we do, because I told you I was going to do this, so I'm going to click on this text box for gross pay, and I'm going to go down and somewhere in here, again, they keep moving stuff around. I wish they wouldn't. But there's a property in here for read only. Action. It's going to be another one I might have to look for. I don't know. Oh, you know what? You know why I couldn't find that before? When you said that, Christopher, I still have my lightning bolt clicked over here. I've got to go back and click the one here. Now it should work. Now let's see if I can find it. So, no, it's still on a lightning bolt. There we go. So I'm going to click here, and I want to find, there's read only. Notice that when I either click on it, click the down arrow and choose true, or if I double click on it and choose true, it turns gray. If that bugs you, you now know how to fix that. If you want it white, just go back up in here, find your back color, go to custom and choose white. Now it looks like the rest of them, if that bothers you. And if it doesn't, leave it the way it is. All right. Now let's see if I can fix those buttons because I had the wrong thing clicked before. Yep, look. Is there an accept? There, see this? Accept button. See, I don't know if you can see where I've got the mouse moving around here. It says accept button. So you click on a blank spot on the form, you go to accept button. It says none right now, but when I click here, I want button calculate. And then I'm going to find the one that says cancel button, which is down a little further. There, it's alphabetized. It says none. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to choose button clear. How do I know whether or not it worked? Well, when I run the program, I don't have my calculate code in there yet. But if I put some stuff in here now, and all I'm going to do right now, notice now I can't type in here because it's read only. But I'm going to just hit the escape key. I'm not clicking the button. Boom. All right, those are just, little niceties that you can put into your program. So some of the stuff that we've gone over today, in here, you've learned how to create a GUI. You've learned how to change sizes of different things. You've learned how to change background colors. If you don't like the text color, there's 4 color. That's for the text. So if you wanted, maybe you want it to be black with white text. All right. You could do something like that. All right. So the only thing that's left is to do our calculate button. So I'm going to double click on that one. So I bring that in. So here's our calculate button. So what do I want? Well, I really want, there's 3 variables in here. I've got a double that represents the hours worked. I've got a double that represents the hourly rate. And I've got a double that represents the gross pay. I think you'd all agree with that. All right. I don't have any variables that I've created so far. I could create those variables at the top of my program, and then they'd be available throughout the program. But I only need them in here. So I'm going to come in here and say double. Well, we'll call them hours worked. And I'm just, for now, I'm going to set it equal to 0. Double hourly rate, and it's going to be equal to 0. And double gross pay, and I'm going to set that equal to 0. Guess what? You all know why it's got the squigglies. All right. Now, what I want to do is I want to take the hours worked, if you look up on the screen here, and I want to set it to what's in here. All right. Now, what we'll get to eventually is we'll do what's called input validation, because you wouldn't want to do it if it was empty or it was non-numeric. So you wouldn't want to do that. But we're not worried about that now. We're assuming, it's always a bad assumption, but the person running it knows what the hell they're doing. All right. And remember, I don't mean you. I mean that you're creating the program for somebody. All right. So again, I'm going to come back here. And I'm going to say, I could leave it at 0. I could have done them right away too, but I'm going to just do it like this. And I'm going to say hours worked equal that text box. Let's see. Text box, hours worked. I'm hoping I'm giving this to you right. Dot text. Then I'm going to take that. It's not going to work right now because it's it's a string. So that's not going to work. But I'm going to take all that, put it in parentheses, and then attempt to do on it a convert dot to double. And lo and behold, it looks like it worked. An hourly rate equal convert dot to double. Text box hourly rate dot text. Oops, no, don't do that, Jeff. And then finally, gross pay equals hours worked times hourly rate. Now, just stop typing if you would for a second. Everything's done. We have literally one more line of code, and hopefully you can figure out what that is. We've now gone in and we've grabbed this value and we've multiplied them and we put it in the gross pay. But it's in the variable gross pay. We've now got to put it in here, and it's not in there right now. So if we ran the program, even though the program might run, we would not have that final output. So let's get that final output. And we're going to say, now our text box for the gross pay dot text equals gross pay dot to string. You know about this already. And currency format. Whoops, sorry. Currency format. I believe the program's done. All right, I'm going to run it in a minute to double check, but I believe it's done. All right, so I'll come back to it. So if you're still typing, it's fine, but let's just take it for a spin and see what it looks like. Jeff, tab, Scott, tab, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, tab, true, tab, 40, tab, let's put 40 in there, that's fine, and hit enter, 1600. All right, looks like everything is working. I'm going to hit the escape key. That cleared everything out. Now I can run it again. I'm going to hit there. You only have, to my knowledge, unless they added another one, you've got accept button and you've got cancel button. So we can't do anything special for the exit button. All right. I mean, you can program it in, but there's nothing that I know of. So, and I'm going to say, yes, I want to quit. So to my knowledge, that's it. And again, Adam, I will send this to you in just a minute. Okay. I don't know what happened. I wish I did so I could tell you. Now, we went through a lot in here. And my question for you is there anything that we've done in the last hour or so that doesn't make sense to you? You know, because the biggest thing is, and these guys, I think at least can identify with this, is sooner or later, you know, you take your first test and you'll go, you know, it made so much sense in class, and then I tried doing it myself and it made no sense at all. If there was a way that I could take a mallet and pound it into your heads and have it stay there, I would do it. All right. But again, and these guys have probably heard this, I still remember where I went to school for my 2-year degree, and it was eons ago, but I went to a technical college in Wausau, Wisconsin, very similar to this one, pretty much the same size, and they're a little bit bigger. But the point is, I took a class in the summer because that's all they had, and we wrote one program in there, and he told us what to type, so I didn't learn a darn thing. And it was like 3 lines, so it was pretty stupid that we did that, but we did. We learned about the history of the language and all this other stuff no one cared about. So it was like, okay, that was at the end of the semester. And then I noticed there was a summer class at a University of Wisconsin extension that was starting the next week. I'm like, okay, I'll sign up for it. If it's not any good, I'll just drop the class. So I did. He gave us the first assignment. The guy talked for 4 hours. We met once a week. He talked for 4 hours. We got no break. We got nothing. But he talked for 4 hours. Then when he's done, he goes, okay, I want you to create a program with an array. I want you to be able to put any number of integers you want in the array. And I want you to go through that in there. And I want you to sort the array and then create another array that just has prime numbers. And there were people in there laughing. That's it? And I'm like, what the hell is an array? What the hell is an int? I had no idea what any of them were. So we left, and they were all laughing because it was so easy. I went right to the library. We didn't have the internet back then. So I went to the card catalog and started looking up. And I found a math book that had all the stuff in there. And man, my first program, it just sucked. It worked, but it could have been, I mean, if I looked at it now, I probably could write it in about 10% of the code that I used. But it worked. I passed the class. I didn't get an A, but I didn't care. I was just doing it for the knowledge. So the point is, you know, everybody's going to learn this stuff if you want to learn it, and you're going to learn it at different times in different levels. Again, I talked yesterday to Angie in the afternoon. She's in the afternoon class. She said she's happy to work with anyone once you get going that thinks they need tutoring help. She can either arrange to come in here on a lab day, or she can work with you electronically. I think she's got a family. I don't, you know, I don't try to pry into people's personal lives, so I don't know for sure. But I know she's worked with people both electronically and in the classroom. All right. Everybody have this? Yes.
Can you run me a link on Excel and escape?
Pardon me? Oh, sure. In here, I clicked on a blank spot on the form, not on the buttons, on a blank spot on the form, anywhere you want. There's got nothing in it. Then, so it should say form payroll up on the top in your properties window up here.
Okay, I was clicking on a button. That was the issue.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because then you come in here and then it's got accept button here. You go down a little further, it's got cancel button. Yeah, I did the same thing. And the way that I learned it, the book that I had when I learned this stuff wasn't good. So I built myself a simple application and I started setting these things to see what happened. All right. All right, so I'm going to do this a little bit differently. Give me a second here.